Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're going to be checking out the new releases of today, including Ghost and ANGELMAKER. So, Ghost and ANGELMAKER, two big names, obviously one larger than the other, dropping albums today. We listened to both records. Which one would you like to start with?
Let's kick it off with ANGELMAKER.
Okay.
Let's take the forward. Let's start with it. ANGELMAKER. What do you think?
Sanctum by ANGELMAKER. I believe we reacted to at least like 2 music videos from this record.
Was 2 for sure.
Like the titles of the tracks were familiar to me when I was
Exit
looking at them.
Signs and What I Would Give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a pretty cool album. I enjoyed it, like, generally. I kind of like it how the beginning of the album is just, and it's like an intro track. It's like a 1 minute, but it's essentially just a minute of breakdown. That's just how it starts.
Pig squeals right out the gate.
Exactly. Just drop the piano on the floor, and have it explode.
Yeah.
One thing that I really like that this album is doing is that it, like, in a lot of deathcore albums, like, nowadays, you're seeing a lot of bands get a lot more melodic. They'll start maybe using acoustic guitar and clean vocals and stuff. This album is comparable to that kind of wave of deathcore, but doesn't go all the way. This album adds a lot of melodic guitar parts, and it's really tasteful and it's really good, but it doesn't go to the extent of clean vocals and such. And I think that's cool because it makes this album sit in the middle between, the same deathcore we've been hearing for so long and this kind of new style of deathcore.
Yeah.
So this album's between it, so that kind of gives it, a kind of another fresh take almost.
In a way, yeah.
So that was really cool, and I really like the vocal variety on this album. The screams, the harshes, it just feels like there's so much happening, and the layering is also very, very nice. I like that too.
Yeah.
There were 3 songs that were really my main highlight tracks, and those are Gutless, which had a really cool bass-focused riff in it. The Great Gray Flame was really good, and Bloom was probably my favorite track on the album. That's an instrumental that happens pretty much near the very end, and it was just really nice to hear, especially after so much going on in the album. There's a lot of tracks. I want to say 15 or so, and there's a really nice, like, solemn, like, piano track before Bloom leads right into Bloom, and Bloom is just a really cool instrumental jam. So I was generally, like, enjoying it quite a bit. The solos were nice, specifically such as in Creator's Conscience and What I Would Give. Like, overall, it was actually a pretty fun album.
I find it interesting that you named off a bunch of songs that you found were highlights, and none of those were the songs that I found were highlights. So that's kind of a weird contrast here. Just to touch on the piano instrumental song that you mentioned, that song's called Wither, and it's actually performed by an artist named Mystic. I think it's pronounced Mystic or maybe Mystique. But she's this artist on TikTok who, I guess, at least that's where I know her from. I've been following her on TikTok for quite a while. But she basically adds symphonic and, basically keys to deathcore bands and albums, stuff like that, right? So I'm guessing, obviously, ANGELMAKER hired her to do some of the work on this album, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, she gets her own track, which I thought was awesome, and it bleeds right into Bloom, which is an instrumental. It's pretty cool. So some highlight tracks for me. Vengeance, I thought was pretty cool because it ups the tempo. So the first few songs that come before that all kind of have a very similar vibe, and then this song comes in, it just is a bit more fierce, a bit more aggressive, and it just feels fresher. Another song that does that is Oppressive Control. Really cool song, probably one of the highlights on the album for me, at least on a couple of early listens. But this song has just a different vibe than the rest of their albums, which is one of my problems with this album, is that it was very samey in the vibe aspect of it. Again, I listened to it once or twice, and it's hard to really pick out all the special stuff about an album when you only listen to it a couple times. There was things here and there that I was like, that's really cool, like the solo in Lazarus. You mentioned solos, and I thought you were going to say Lazarus. You didn't. Lazarus has a great solo. Kind of comes in out of nowhere, kicks you in the face a couple times, and then it's out of there. Awesome stuff. So yeah, overall, I thought Sanctum was a pretty good album, but my issue with it was that it was very samey throughout, with a few highlights here and there, but I couldn't really find any truly standout tracks. Like, songs will start off different sounding. I'll go, okay, here we go. And they all kind of seem to bleed into the same old thing that they were doing before. So, yeah, it was good, I'll definitely spend more time with it when I get a chance. But I wasn't overly impressed by it, just to be blunt about it.
So,
Ghost, Impera.
Impera by Ghost. I guess I'll start with this one. And this album is a bit weird considering Ghost. Now, I think Kaiserion is I'm conflicted about this track. It's the second track, there's an intro track, and then this track happens, because this track, I kind of like it for what it is. If it wasn't a Ghost song, I think I'd like it more. This song sounds like something like 80s Rush. Like, it really felt like this is something you'd hear on Power Windows. And I like that. I think that's cool. Power Windows is a great album. But do I like this being a song by Ghost? Like, do I like Ghost doing something like that? I don't think so. I don't really like that kind of direction for them. And I felt like some of this album felt out of character for the band. But, you know, bands evolve and they change and they try different things. So it's not like, oh, they have to sound like this. It's not like that at all. I just felt a song like Kaiserion just felt weird to listen to. Like, this isn't really anything like the Ghost I know. And some songs are more familiar to the Ghost that, I guess, has been established, like Call Me Little Sunshine and Hunter's Moon. Those I feel like are a lot more identifiable, like, oh yeah, that's the Ghost sound.
Those are the safe songs, that's why they came out with the singles.
Yeah, I mean, well, 20s was also a single. That was the third single they released. It didn't have a video, I don't think.
No, they didn't.
But that one is weird, and interestingly enough, like, I wasn't huge on the chorus, but the rest of the riffs I did enjoy. And I feel like there were bits and pieces of this album, like, oh yeah, that's a good riff here, that's a nice riff there. But some of the songs I'm thinking, well, I'm not so sure about. Spillways comes right after Kaiserion, and that feels like the kind of song that should happen either right in the middle or near the end. You know, this.
Or not at all. How about not at all?
Oh, well, I mean,
because I didn't like it. To me, that song sounded like Weird Al doing a parody of an 80s song. It sounds like a fucking Weird Al song. It really does.
What makes Spillways essentially like just even more off-putting for me is that Darkness at the Heart of My Love is essentially what I thought Spillways could have been. So why have them both? Especially when Darkness at the Heart of My Love comes near the end, exactly where I would have expected Spillways to come, but Spillways is near the beginning. Not sure why that is. I feel like you should just have at least one or the other.
Yeah.
That was a little bit weird. Watcher in the Sky had some cool riffs. That was a pretty good one. But Respite on the Spitalfields, I don't know. I feel like it was a good ending track, or at least an effective one. I'd listen to that and be like, you know what, I'm okay with this being the end of the album. I do like it this way. Like, I'm totally okay with that.
I would have felt that way with any song just because the album's over. Didn't like it. I'm just going to put that out there. Again, I only listened to it twice actually. I listened to this song twice. I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you done?
Just about, I guess. The only thing I could really mention is that Dominion does not need to exist at all whatsoever.
I agree with that too.
Get rid of that song now.
Yeah.
It's a pointless interlude that doesn't really feel like it connects anything. At the very least, with Bite of Passage, despite it being 30 seconds, it at least leads right into the next song properly. Mm-hmm. Dominion is just there just because I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had a really tough time with this album. This is not what I want from Ghost at all. You know, there's been this years-long debate whether Ghost is metal or not, and I've always been on the side, and I fought for this. Ghost is metal. I fought for this tooth and nail, argued with people, whatever. Now my stance is Ghost was metal, because this to me is just not it. This is very borderline 80s synth pop, 80s synth hair metal, something, that kind of very 80s sounding. Not necessarily a bad thing, but for me, Ghost has been on this trajectory with their albums, and their sounds change from album to album, and it's kind of been getting lighter sounding and brighter sounding and poppier. It should have stopped with Prequel. This, to me, is them going too far, but there's always room for my opinion to grow. This has happened before, where I hated an album on a first listen, and I've given it a toe tag at the end of the week. That has happened before. Will it happen this time? I don't freaking know. Kaiserion, you mentioned a little bit about it. Just to give you guys, I mean, you probably listened to it. I'm not telling you anything you probably don't know. But it starts off with a 10-second long, like, weird-ass 80s hair metal scream.
Yeah, that
Threw me off right at the beginning.
Yo, dude, same. What was that?
I was like, what was that? So I'm listening to it, I'm like, you know what? This song really sucks. I don't like this. But there's something about it where I feel like if I listen to it enough, I'm gonna start liking it. And that's kind of my feeling with a lot of these songs, where I just really don't like them on a first listen, but they could be growers. That bugs me a little bit, that I almost have to listen to it over and over again and like have it get stuck in my head for me to like it. But maybe that's what it takes.
I mean, that's kind of how we work, right?
That's kind of how we work, exactly. Call Me Little Sunshine, I think TV Fish was right. I think that's one of the most ghost-sounding songs on the album. And it's probably one of my favorite songs because of that.
And that's funny considering that when we reacted to that song, you didn't like it at all.
Well, we were like, it was okay. It was okay. It didn't really do a lot, but it was okay. But it was one of those songs where I listened to it once, and then afterwards, thinking about it and listening to it again, I started realizing, it actually has some potential there, right? 20s is another song that I think is actually pretty good. It's got a cool, funky kind of, I wanted to call it a shuffle, but it's not a shuffle, but it's like kind of a cool like beat that goes onto it. But it almost sounds like a movie score for like an action scene or a fight scene or like a boss battle in a video game. The solo in the song is really good, and the chorus is catchy as fuck. Now, catchy solo is like the bane of our existence. I sometimes don't like a song, and the chorus is like, oh, I'm really good over here, but listen to me some more. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know.
Well, I feel like this whole album is kind of like that. This is the kind of album that both of us kind of feel a bit iffy on based on our first impressions here. But yeah. An album like this is the kind of album that can grow just from its catchiness. Now, is that a problem? I don't know. Because consider that it's doing its job if it's getting better by saying, yeah, actually, I do kind of like how this riff is made. And it's getting in my head.
That's true, I guess. But I don't know. It's, I don't know. If we're going to do this album all week, then I want people to set their expectations low for what I have to say about it next week. I don't think this is the kind of album that's going to grow on me in a good way. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, believe me.
I mean, you never know.
I just don't see it with this one. This is going to be a tough one to really push me over. A couple songs might do it. A couple songs might grow on me. Maybe.
I mean, consider that that's kind of how, like, your experience with this band was, because it took you a while to really, really get into, like, them in general, right?
That's very true.
Like, it took them a bit of time for it to really grow into you, and then you enjoy them after that.
It did, but that was the ghost sound that I grew to love. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't want to have to grow to love another. This is a different band.
To a degree, like a different band. It kind of does.
Right?
In some of these tracks, it really does feel like something completely different. And that's kind of what I mean about Kaiserion, is that it's like if this wasn't a Ghost song, I think I'd like it more. Because I think it's a cool song. It's just, do I like this as a Ghost song?
Yeah.
You know?
And just to put this out there, Ghost isn't the only band doing this. Like, Beast in Black did this too. And that was something that disappointed us as well, because we loved Beast in Black, and then they come out and they're like 80s synth pop.
Yeah, they came out hot out the gate and then just kind of just went down from there.
So, I don't know who they're trying to appeal to, but I don't think they're trying to appeal to people that like Meliora or any of the other older albums. Prequel was kind of a borderline album, where it still had a lot of those roots sounds, and it was touching on a little of these, 80s synth pop, that's just what I'm going to call it, type of sounds.
But Dance Macabre is a really good example of that.
Yeah, but it still
really feels true to Ghost.
It does, because it's got like a darker undertone to it, which is maybe one of the things that this album's really missing for me. And maybe it's I haven't discovered it yet. Maybe it's there and I haven't found it. But one of the things about Ghost that I've always loved is this bright sound with a dark undertone. They always have this dichotomy of sound or maybe it's just the lyrics and mixed with the music. There's something always there that brings a lightness and a darkness and mashes them together. For this album, other than a couple small examples, all I hear is bright, light, fun-sounding music. It's not what I want from this band.
Well, I guess we're going to see next week how that's going to go. I think it's pretty clear that we are going to be reviewing Impera next week. So we're going to listen to this album nonstop over and over for the entire week, and we will be back to review it. Anyway, guys, that's what we got for you today. Remember to like this video. If you like it, comment. Tell us in the comments below, what do you think of the two albums we talked about today? They're brand new. Anyway, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Balself.
And keep the horns up.